Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brodo Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrodoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Brodo app, the only tool you need to dominate fantasy football.
Matt, you're back.
Boom, boom. So happy to be here, man. Feeling like a regular human with
Good to see you, brother.
those flu-like symptoms keeping me as a GTD.
Yeah, Matt was under the weather last week, which is why he was off the pod, and Tim filled in for the first time in a bit. Tim is gonna start seeing if he could get in here a little bit more often. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, the kid's like a few weeks old now. He can basically take care of himself.
A little bit over a month, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
This is the time he goes off into the wilderness to fend for himself, anyways. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Matt
100%.
is back. Good to see you, Matt. It's been a while.
Oh, it's good to be back. You guys held down the fort nice, though. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's been a while. 1 week is a long time away.
Yeah, and we have a fun episode for you. We have a QB discussion. Going to be discussing the big four QB news that are currently happening. We'll get into those shortly, and we're going to go through FFPC ADP, the first 5 rounds, best ball style, looking at the average draft positions of those guys and giving you who we believe are the best and worst picks of those rounds. FFPC currently has a best ball tournament going on that you could join and win tens of thousands of dollars. $125.
I see all you degens out there pushing the draft buttons already.
Yeah, $125 entry or $35 entry. So yeah, go ahead and join that. If you join using our link, you'll save $5 if you're a new player on a $35 entry. That's like a 15% savings. So you might as well.
Incredible.
You could click it straight from the app or just shoot us a DM and we'll send you a link. It's either or is very easy. This podcast is, of course, and video, youtube.com/BrodoFantasy. Now we're on YouTube at all times. Brought to you by the Fantasy Football by Brodo app. We talk about it a lot because, yes, it's our app, but it's also a great app with stats, player cards, like a ridiculous amount of stats. Let me just say that. Also exclusive stats like true throw value, true player grades, true target value, and things of that sort. Player comps coming soon. Cass has been
very
working
soon
behind the scenes on those bad boys.
Maybe I shouldn't have let that slip, but very soon.
Yes. Exciting news. All of our articles and everything. And shout out to Matt, who the Dynasty Dawn is a new podcast, weekly podcast that Matt will be running with various guests or himself. It's going to depend week to week. He had Themi on last week, which was great. I see that he already had another guy get ready to be on an episode. So look, myself, Tim, and Jason, we've always been very what's the word, Matt, when you share?
Supportive?
No, not supportive. I'm blanking on the damn word. I hate when I hate
selfless?
No, not selfless.
That's
not sharing. We've transparent. We've been very transparent about the fact that we are
there you go.
Redraft players, recently best ball players. That's our forte. That's where we've always strived and have always been very good at, and that's why we
dominated.
That's why we give you advice in those areas. And we were lucky enough to bring Matt onto the team, who what we are in redraft is what Matt is in Dynasty. Everything he talks about in Dynasty, and every time I listen to him, I'm like, this is glorious. And now you guys get to hear it on a weekly basis. The first episode came out this past Monday, looking at rookie profiles and NFL Combine review with Themi, the Gridiron Greek on Twitter, as many of you know. So yeah, go check that out. Subscribe to our YouTube to watch every week. So yeah, our first Brodo podcast that's like led by someone who isn't one of the brothers. So it's exciting. And shout out to Matt for being that guy. Matt was very excited about it. He still is very excited about it, of course. We're very excited about it. It's all just a very exciting endeavor. So shout out to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm excited for this week. We're gonna keep them rolling every Monday. They're and this is my favorite time of year. Like, you know, obviously the redraft market will always push the dynasty market. Like, it is the mother of our child, right? Dynasty is just the smaller niche of it, and obviously opens up a tertiary market. But this is my time of year, like when the redraft noise kind of dies down and we get into draft and combines and prospect profiling. Yeah, it's when I thrive.
Yeah, Matt loves it. This crazy animal loves every second of it.
True.
But yeah, so download that. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but download the Fantasy Football by Brodo app,
Please.
patreon.com/Brodo Fantasy to support the show and support the podcast and the app. That's where the majority of the money comes in from. So it is very much appreciated. And you get extras like the Discord and extra episodes and things of that sort. So, like, for example, this week's extra episode is going to be we're discussing rounds 1 through 5 of FFPC ADP for the best ball drafts. We're going to be continuing through rounds 6 through 10, which is going to be available for patrons only on patreon.com.
Juicy rounds.
Very juicy. I looked at the names and there's some guys that I see their ADP and I'm like, people suck at drafting, yo. We'll get into that. But, but with that being said, we're going to jump into the quarterbacks, baby. We got 4 quarterbacks that are being quarterback market so far. Look, March 15th is when free agency kicks off. That's when we're about a week away from some glorious NFL just boatload of news that we're all going to be very excited to hear about. But there's 4 guys who are already making waves in the offseason, and that is Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, still of the New York Giants, kind of giving it away if you haven't figured it out yet, but you should know, I assume, what happened there. Lamar Jackson, maybe of the Baltimore Ravens, Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints, and Aaron Rodgers of the ... Ty will tell.
Yeah, of the ...
Hopefully the New York Jets. No jinxing it. But we're going to dive into it with Daniel Jones because he is him and Derek Carr are the 2 locked in guys. So we'll start with those 2. Going right into Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones just got a 4-year, $160 million deal from the New York Giants with up to $35 million more in incentives. Damn. $40 million a year with up to $35 million more that he could earn. If he does earn all of it, that's close to $50 million a year. I'm on the record saying I think there's a better chance that Daniel Jones isn't a starter in 4 years than he collects all the incentives. But I don't want to jump to conclusions because this isn't it doesn't have to be a yes or no question. It could be, it could be more open than that. But Matt, yes or no? Did the Giants make the right decision?
I don't think so. I think we have yet to see the best of Daniel Jones. I think he just took a Giants team in the toughest division in all of football to the playoffs and won against the second-ranked team in the NFC, and then obviously collapsed against the team that made it to the Super Bowl. I think the best is yet to come for Daniel Jones. That said, that type of money in that market, exactly where you put, like exactly in your perspective, I don't know that he's going to outlast that contract. Like, if Daniel Jones progresses a tiny bit, then he's Kirk Cousins with legs, right? But is that really a franchise quarterback? Is that truly a guy that deserves $40 million a year guaranteed or 37 in incentives plus? I don't think so. And that kind of brings me into a bit of a different tangent, but the whole narrative that the owners are collectively attempting to downplay Lamar Jackson's market value so that they can reset the quarterback market and never have to offer another Deshaun Watson level contract to a quarterback is absolutely nonsense when you see how much money they're allocating to Daniel Jones and Derek Carr as guaranteed money with incentives attached. It's nonsense.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you there. There it goes. My concern here with the Daniel Jones signing is this. Look, you had Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley last season, both on relative
I think they tagged the wrong guy.
Yeah, both on relative bargains. And now you have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, who Saquon Barkley just got the tag, so he's no longer a bargain. He's going to be making a decent amount of money. I mean, I guess you could say he's a bargain based on what he probably would have asked for in contracts. But nonetheless, he's no longer a bargain. And Daniel Jones is nowhere near a bargain from that rookie contract now that he's making $40 million a year. So, look, Brian Daboll came in last year, and Brian Daboll was quickly making himself one of the most well-respected coaches in the league with what he's been able to do in his young coaching career. Last season with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, got them to the playoffs with a team that was not overly talented, wide receiver room that is very much in need of some help. And now the issue is they paid Daniel Jones, and now they have Saquon Barkley for one more year, and then he's either gone or they have to pay him a shitload of money if they want to keep him. And they have a wide receiver room in need of dire help in a weak wide receiver free agency class. They have an offensive line that's decent, but nothing to write home about, a defense that's decent, but nothing to write home about, and they're allocating all their money to a quarterback who has yet to prove that he could be a trustworthy quarterback in the NFL. He just had his best year in the league, yes, but it is one season of Daniel Jones being a successful NFL quarterback, and it ended by getting absolutely demolished by the Philadelphia Eagles, which is, of course, concerning because the Eagles are going to remain in that division for a long time at the top of it. We'd expect as long as Jalen Hurts and company continue to ball out. So my issue with Daniel Jones and the Giants is that, look, I think the Giants wide receiver room, it's similar to the Packers last season, right? They lost Devontae Adams, and it was like, what are they going to do at the wide receiver position? The Giants have who at wide receiver? Isaiah Hodgins and company. Like, Sterling Shepard's gone. They traded Kadarius Toney last season. They really do not have any helpful wide receivers. Who are they going to sign? Like, Juju Smith-Schuster is the best wide receiver. Allen Lazard, guys like that. Or they draft a wide receiver similar to the Packers last season, who drafted Christian Watson in the second round, and it took some time. Christian Watson dealt with injuries and such, but once he did start playing a lot, he started hitting weekly with Aaron Rodgers. But Daniel Jones isn't Aaron Rodgers. You could easily miss on a wide receiver just as easily as you hit. Like, what if the wide receiver the Giants draft is Jalen Tolbert and not Christian Watson? That's a concern as well. And maybe the Giants don't go after wide receivers in the draft. I mean, I'd expect them to. I think everyone kind of expects them to, but you never know with these teams. So my issue is that Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and company, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contending team. And now they spent all their money, not all their money, but a lot of money on Daniel Jones. $40 million a year is not a cheap contract for a quarterback who has been a game manager at his very best so far. And that's very concerning to me. And if I was a Giants fan, I would not be happy about this. As a football fan, I think it was a bad move. And yeah, good luck, Giants. Good luck, Brian Daboll and company. Look, if he does something with Daniel Jones and if he's able to, make this look like a good deal, shout out to him. I don't think there's a 0% chance that happens. I do think there's a shot that Brian Daboll turns Daniel Jones into a star and the Giants are great. Would I give it high odds? Definitely not, but you never know. I err on the side of Daniel Jones not being that guy. We're going to have to see, but the Giants paid him to be that guy, and questionable move, but they did it.
I agree, man. And it's kind of like, it's like there's like a popular, saying on social medias and stuff, but it's like you either go get a franchise quarterback or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's stop paying mid-level 13 wins a season. It looks nice, right? But like it's a franchise quarterback for an elongated period or not, like, or rebuild, or, attack in the rookie draft or what have you, so that you still have that discount. I think paying this type of money to guys like Derek Carr, guys like Daniel Jones is just, you're hamstringing your future.
I do not disagree with you there. What you just brought it up. Derek Carr is the next quarterback that we are going to dive into. If you do not know yet, if you're a listener of some time, you likely know that Matt is a New Orleans Saints fan. If you are a new listener, you now know that Matt is a New Orleans Saints fan. Matt lives up in Canada. I have a friend who lives in New York that both of them are New Orleans Saints fans. I'm kind of confused as to how I know two people who have nothing to do with NOLA as a New Orleans Saints fan. Well, actually, I don't. You have obviously your reasoning is for it, but I think that's kind of funny. But yeah, Derek Carr is the newest. I was on the podcast, the QB Frenzy podcast, with Tim last week, saying I think the Saints are in a bit of a rebuilding mode, even though they don't want to admit it. Even though they traded their two first-round picks last year to move up for Chris Olave, the Saints told me, nope, we're not in a rebuilding mode. We're going for it. Like they traded 2 firsts for Olave. They clearly went all in last year to try to win after that move. Like, that's not a move you make if you're going to start rebuilding. And I think the Saints said, we're not rebuilding. We're going to go for it. And we think Derek Carr is at least decent enough to make us a playoff contender. 4 years, 150 million, 37.5 mil a year average, less than Daniel Jones, which I think is a bargain. Like Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, straight up, I'm taking Derek Carr every single day. Both of these guys I think are mid-level quarterbacks, but Derek Carr higher mid and Daniel Jones lower mid. So Matt, I'm gonna pass it to you because you are the Saints fan here. I'll get into it after you. I just kind of laid out what's going on here in New Orleans now with Derek Carr signing there. How do you feel about this move?
I think you nailed it from the perspective of the management and front office is they absolutely think that they're not rebuilding, if anything, retooling. The NFC South is incredibly weak. Tom Brady just left it. The other 3 quarterbacks remaining in the NFC South that are starting are Sam Darnold for the Panthers, Desmond Ridder for the Falcons, and Kyle Trask, apparently, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So obviously those other teams may very well go out and make some quarterback moves as well. But I think that's why the Saints wanted to get ahead of them on the market, because obviously the Panthers and the Falcons have very good upcoming draft capital to be able to attack that position in the draft should they want to. And with Anthony Richardson kind of blowing the combine away, now it seems as if there may be a stud quarterback that is falling to one of those positions in CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. That said, I think it's an improvement for the offense as a whole. Anybody that says it is not is asinine. It is absolutely an improvement above Andy Dalton. Chris Olave just put up 1,000 yards as a rookie. There's been 8 wide or 7. Garrett Wilson is the 8th. So, but there has been 8 wide receivers in NFL history that have had 1,000 yards as a rookie. They've all repeated with 1,000 yards in their sophomore season. Chris Olave is not going to regress with Derek Carr as a sophomore. He's a bona fide superstar already. Carr is going to improve his development and his progression. It might be enough to get 10 wins, and that's probably enough to win the NFC South, but you're talking about perennial first-round exits with Derek Carr, in my opinion. The NFC is absolutely a weaker division than the AFC, but there's no easy outs once you get to the playoffs. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. Yes, one is stronger than the other, but there's no easy outs. And the Saints are also in defensive purgatory right now. Now, they have to get cap compliant by March 15th. Michael Thomas is going to get cut. That's almost 100% guaranteed. They're going to owe him $30 million plus in guaranteed money if they don't cut him before the 15th. That also still leaves Alvin Kamara, and his legal situation may actually allow them to just get out of that contract. But it's Alvin Kamara, Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, and Cameron Jordan. All of those guys need to be restructured, or one of them needs to be cut outright. CJ's the only one that you can't really trade or restructure because it's going to cost them a major dead cap hit to do so. And that just puts them in a worse position financially. So it looks like Derek Carr is now going to come into an offense that is sans Alvin Kamara, who knows the running back, sans Michael Thomas, which would make Jarvis Landry, if they extend him as a mentor, their secondary wideout. Otherwise, it's Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Jawan Johnson, also a free agent. So Adam Troutman's the only, it's not a good offense. It's not a good offense. And I think Chris Olave is the best benefactor because he's still going to earn the most targets. But this is a move that puts the Saints in perennial mid-level purgatory until that contract is up.
Yeah, Jason and I used to say all the time that Derek Carr is the premier purgatory quarterback. Like, he's a quarterback that you want on your team if you want to be a mid-level team. And some teams, they want to be mid-level. Like teams like the Browns, I'm sure they'll go for mid-level for a bit of time. But you got teams like the Saints, who Sean Payton, Drew Brees and company, like they're used to being very good teams. They're used to, being at the top of the class in the NFL. And it did not happen this past year with Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. And they're going after with Derek Carr. Look, I applaud them for the move if they believe Derek Carr is that guy. But I'm definitely with you, Matt, in where I question if they have the weapons for it. Like I thought the Saints were going to end up with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo, because I didn't think a high-end quarterback would see this team and say this is a team that's going to win now, because they're over the cap. They trade away draft picks. Like, they do not have the best weapons. They have free agents like Jawan Johnson, like Matt mentioned, who was a big factor in the red zone for the Saints last year, and Michael Thomas might be cut. Alvin Kamara is a question mark. But nonetheless, the Saints said, we're going to go get Derek Carr. And I applaud them for the balls that it takes, similar to the Giants, for the balls that it takes to sign a guy like Daniel Jones or Derek Carr to this contract. But I'm with you, Matt, where I don't think it is a successful long-term plan for the Saints. I do think Derek Carr has a better shot at playing out all 4 years than Daniel Jones does, just because he is older. He is more of a resume. And like he's done a lot with a little in the past, but he's still just a mid-level quarterback in the NFL. He's not someone I'm like overly excited about. But nonetheless, the Saints signed to a 4-year deal. Shockingly to me, I didn't expect the Saints to be able to pull a guy like that, but here we go. As a Saints fan, Matt, I'm sure you're not overly excited about the next 4 years, but
Nope.
maybe Derek Carr
I'm
turns up.
Yeah, and that's just it. Is I don't really see Dennis Allen as the quarterback that can take a 32 or as the coach that can take a 32-year-old quarterback and turn his career back towards an MVP level trajectory. Because like Derek Carr's peak was in 2016, 2017, right? It's
Yeah.
been quite some time since he's been a top 5 MVP quarterback. So I don't know that they can necessarily make that trajectory turn around, but fantasy wise, it's undeniably an improvement for the weapons, whatever weapons they will have when the season starts.
Yeah, I don't think that's debatable. Derek Carr greater than Jameis and Andy Dalton. I'll agree with you there. On to the next two quarterbacks. Gonna save the best for last, if I may. Lamar Jackson is the next one up. This is what's going on with Lamar Jackson. If you don't know how the franchise tags work, so there's a exclusive and a non-exclusive franchise tag. The exclusive franchise tag is like what the Giants did with Saquon Barkley. We're going to give you this amount of money. You're on the team next year. Haha, you can't really do anything about it. If the Ravens did that, they would have had to pay Lamar Jackson $45 million guaranteed, which kind of seems like a bargain if you're looking at Derek Carr and Daniel Jones's contracts. Instead, they went for a non-exclusive tag, which attaches a 1-year deal to Lamar Jackson, but very much reduced, $32.4 million for the Ravens. But that's only if a team doesn't offer Lamar Jackson a contract. Lamar Jackson can now be offered a contract by other teams. If the other team accepts, the Ravens could swoop in, kind of like a restricted free agent in the NBA. The Ravens could say 4 years, 180 million for Lamar Jackson. Sure, we'll do it. If the Falcons offer him that, for example,
Right.
they could swoop in and sign Lamar Jackson at that agreed upon cost from the other team. Or if say the Falcons offer Lamar Jackson 4 years, 180 million, the Ravens say it's time to move on from Lamar. They get 2 first-round picks in return. So look,
And it
I
would
know
be the next closest to firsts. Like if the Falcons didn't own their 2024, it would be 2023 and 2025.
yes. And look, I know a lot of people are shitting on the Ravens for not extending Lamar Jackson. Look, if ownership and brass doesn't believe in Lamar Jackson, this is a genius move. Like, let's be real. If you're not a believer in Lamar Jackson as the owner of the Ravens, why not put him on the open market, basically the open market, and get 2 first-round picks in return for him? Because 2 first-round picks is a lot. It's it's no joke to have 2 first-round picks in today's NFL. And there are teams who are in desperate need of a quarterback. The Jets, for example, the Falcons, the Saints no longer, the Panthers, the Washington Commanders. Like, there is no shortage of teams in need of a quarterback, and Lamar Jackson is a game-changing quarterback, 1,000%. My only issue with Lamar Jackson, he's been injured these past 2 seasons often, and that is not good at all because we've seen quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, these running style quarterbacks who, like Lamar Jackson is a better passer than a lot of people give him credit for, but he is not a pocket passer. Like, he is a mobile quarterback. His legs are a big reason why the Ravens offense has succeeded over these last several seasons. His MVP type season, he was a beast because he was running all over the place and he was having success through the air. But if you take the legs out of the equation, he's a much different quarterback. And I don't think any team expects that to be the case. Like, if you're signing Lamar Jackson long term, it's because of the dual threat ability that he has. But he's been injured over the past 2 seasons. And if you get a guy like Lamar Jackson, you have to tailor your offense around that skill set. His skill set is absolutely amazing, and you can tailor a tremendous offense around it, as the Ravens have done, but it is asking a lot from a team. A lot of teams would have to just completely transform their offense, would have to completely transform everything about their team if they go ahead and acquire Lamar Jackson. With that being said, I do think there are a lot of teams that bite the bullet, pay 2 first-round picks, and get Lamar Jackson. I think that's a tremendous deal. At this point, I think there is no shot Lamar Jackson stays with the Ravens. They've offered him well, reports have said that they've been offering him just disrespectful amounts of money, and now they give him the non-exclusive franchise tag, which says go ahead and try to sign with a team. We'll figure it out later if we want to. Like, it's disrespectful what they're doing. But if they're ready to move on from Lamar Jackson, it's also a genius long-term move to get 2 firsts out of it, rather than just letting him walk. So I think it's an interesting situation we have going here with Lamar Jackson. I think his time with the Ravens is done. How do you feel about Matt? How are you feeling about Lamar Jackson, Matt? Do you think he stays with the Ravens, or do you also agree that it seems like his days as a Raven are probably over with?
Yeah, I completely agree. And my brother's a Ravens fan. As soon as they or non-exclusive tagged him, he messaged me and he's like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, "It's not good, man. It means it's not good." Because yeah, they're essentially, and it's you don't have to play the conspiracy game and go too deep into it. And I'm sure there are a lot of nuances that aren't being talked about as to why he hasn't been offered this contract. But you said it plain and simple. There are, in my opinion, probably 25 teams that should be, regardless of who their quarterback is, attempting to trade for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But you've seen GMs within the hour of that exclusive tag openly come out with their beat reporters and say, we're not interested. I kind of touched on it previously. A lot of people think that's because they're trying to reset the market at a cheaper level, to not have to cough up Deshaun Watson money again and then see how he performed even in limited time in Cleveland. Not great. I think that because Watson reset the market and didn't deserve that money and was coming off of all of those issues, that GMs are actively trying to reduce the cost of these quarterback contracts. But then you see guys like Daniel Jones signed 160 for 4 and Derek Carr 150 for 3. Like, so that narrative doesn't really hold up when lesser quarterbacks are getting more money. I think the narrative is much truer to what you were saying. It is a big ask to redevelop the entire offensive system, especially if you're a somewhat of a contending team, to be able to cater to Lamar Jackson. And of course, knowing that the market is what it is, he's absolutely worth that money. But you're putting any team is then going to put themselves in the same position that we were just talking about with, because Allen and Mahomes are incredibly underpaid, but the same position as the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, where you are locked into, no matter what, paying this kid what you've agreed upon without knowing if you're going to get the production and the wins. Obviously, no one knows the production or the wins, but Lamar has very much shown to be capable, but injuries are a question and the scheme is a question. And obviously the money that he wants, I would assume, is more than anybody in the NFL. And is he worth Mahomes level money? I think so. Yes. Youngest MVP in NFL history, but GMs clearly don't feel the same way. And him getting locked into that Ravens contract puts him in the exact same position that he was in 2022, where he's on a prove it deal. And if he gets injured and his, camp kind of says, like, maybe this season the same way, why do I come back when I don't have guaranteed money? And it just is a vicious cycle. Then it puts the Ravens in a position, well, why do we want to extend this kid if he can't stay on the field? And it puts Lamar in a position, well, why would I want to sign with them if, they aren't protecting me? It's just a vicious cycle of, essentially, yes, he's no longer a Baltimore Raven. It's only a franchise tag in name.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt, and it's gonna be fun to watch because starting March 13th, 4 days from now, Lamar Jackson could sign with a team, I believe they said, or agree to a contract with a team for the Ravens to have. I don't know how much time they have to match. I assume it's like 72 hours or something of that sort before they have to make a decision. But either way, it's going to be fun to watch. And Lamar Jackson is a tremendous NFL quarterback, game-changing type of player. We've seen the Ravens absolutely dominate offensively with Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be fun to see how this plays out. And it's certainly disrespectful on the Baltimore side, but we'll see. It would be quite a shock to me if they decide to keep him. I don't know how Lamar Jackson would even feel about that, but
That's what I mean. Is like if they do get the offer sheet that is like in their and it's not overly difficult to figure out. They offered what they thought Lamar was worth. He said, I'm worth way more. They said, go let another team tell you that. And if they tell you that, maybe we'll agree. But
Yeah.
no other team is telling you that. We're telling you this. So yeah,
I do think
it's very disrespectful. He absolutely deserves what he's asking for, but they kind of hold the cards now because they've non-exclusive tagged him. It's Let's see if another team thinks you're worth what you say you are.
Yeah,
And then we could decide if we agree.
I think it's absolutely wild that teams have been like publicly saying we're not going after Lamar Jackson already. Like the Falcons, the Panthers, the Commanders, and company. We'll see. We'll see about
Makes
that.
no
Like,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see if that's actually the case. I take all that reporting with a grain of salt.
with an entire sifter of salt, man.
Sifters of salt. And now heading into the final quarterback here. The one I'm most
sure you're
excited
pretty
about
excited about.
personally for Jet fan reasons. If you don't know, I'm a Jets fan. Matt is a Saints fan. I'm a Jets fan. Now you know if you're a new listener. Aaron Rodgers is heading to the Jets, question mark. Look, Aaron Rodgers apparently came out of his darkness retreat ready to make a decision soon. Apparently he talked with the Jets and it went decently well. And then apparently again, which actually almost definitely it's been reported, Jet brass flew out there. Woody Johnson, Robert Saleh, and company flew out to California to meet with Aaron Rodgers, and it was reported that they had a good conversation. And the Jets are pretty set on the fact that they think they have a very good chance to acquire Aaron Rodgers. And look, for me, if the Packers wanted to keep Aaron Rodgers, they wouldn't let him talk to the Jets. They wouldn't just be like, yeah, team, come try to trade for our quarterback. Like, I think that relationship's done. It's already been reported that Jordan Love is kind of ready to be the quarterback for the Packers. Yeah. So I think that relationship is done. Similar to, we've seen this in the past with guys like, Peyton Manning getting traded to the Broncos, Brett Favre a while ago getting traded to the Jets. Matt, my question to you is, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, can he be the new Peyton Manning winning first year with the Broncos, Tom Brady winning first year with the Bucs, Matt Stafford winning first year with the Rams? Do you think the Jets have the personnel to make that happen?
Yes. Plain and simple, yes. I mean, I genuinely believe that the Jets might be the most quote unquote quarterback away team in the NFL. That defense is absolutely nasty. Second rated secondary in the NFL behind the Broncos. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and company, phenomenal defensive assets. Defensive line looking nasty. If Jermaine Johnson can get his stuff together, looking even nastier as well. Obviously, it's going to cost them probably the same amount that it would cost them to go and get Lamar, right? Like 2 first-round draft picks, and you have to take a $40 million guaranteed contract. It's not going to be a cheap ask, and that's kind of where I get a little concerned with the Jets. But they are a very young team as well. The offensive line is probably the area that needs the most help when it comes to where they should be allocating free agent funds and draft capital, but you can get very good offensive linemen in the second and third round. So losing those first round picks doesn't necessarily hurt them as much. They have Breece Hall coming back. I mean, undeniably would be RB1 overall if he was healthy the entire season. An absolutely phenomenal generational running back. Garrett Wilson, I think Elijah Moore, a huge bump in value should Aaron Rodgers come. I also think with Aaron Rodgers, Elijah Moore, and a new offense that they will find a role for him, and we will see regression back to his rookie year norm. And then Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson, of one of those 8 rookie wide receivers I mentioned to put up 1,000 yards, and every single one of them had done it again in their second season. There's no regression coming for Garrett Wilson. He's a certified superstar and would immediately be arguably the second best receiver Aaron Rodgers has ever played with in his career. And that's saying something. And both of those guys still on minimal rookie year contracts. So if Rodgers can get it kicking for 2 or 3 years, maybe it isn't this year. Maybe it's not a Matt Stafford, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, but it definitely puts them in the hunt within their rookie window of all of those assets that I just mentioned.
I do not disagree. I'm going to push back on a couple things. First, the 2 first cost. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. They're also reporting that it's not going to be that expensive, because I mean the Packers don't have much leverage here, if we're being honest.
That's fair.
And Aaron Rodgers is old at this point. Let's be real. He's an old guy, but he probably has 2 or 3 years just left in him in general. And there's a huge contract. They probably eat some of the money. But I don't know if they'll be receiving 2 first-round picks. Otherwise, the offensive line, yes, it needs work, but it wasn't horrific last season, and they are going to get Elijah Vera Tucker and Mekhi Becton back as well, which is already a big boost to the offensive line on top of what they can do in the draft and through free agency. So I agree with you. I think the Jets have a lot of appeal. I think Rodgers would be smart to come join the Jets for selfish reasons and for NFL reasons. I also agree that Garrett Wilson, we're going to be jumping into the best ball draft after this, but I think Garrett Wilson jumps into first round territory if the Jets acquire Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, that's where I guess we're both in agreement that we think the Jets end up making this happen. I'm scared for being this optimistic about it as a Jets fan, but we'll see. That's certainly what the tarot cards are reading at the moment. So Aaron Rodgers, New York Jet, hopefully by next week. Hopefully, I'm very much
It
hoping.
seemed like it was about to happen today with that Schefter troll, but yeah, I mean, it does almost seem inevitable. And as like, there's always kind of a with coach speak and beat writers, you kind of have to read between the lines. But there's an old idiom that I've always kind of thought about or, followed by when it comes to these beat reports. And that's no news is good news. And there's been no news of him going anywhere else. Like literally nobody's even coming up as a proper suitor other than the Jets.
Yeah, at this point, it just seems like Jets are retired.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like the Packers are kind of putting him in that position too, because I don't know if he, he's obviously already waived his no trade clause or whatever, but that's still, if that no trade clause is waived, that puts him in a position where he just can kind of pick his team. And if the Packers are only hearing offers from one team, he doesn't have another choice.
Yeah, fair enough. But that's the QB talk. That was oh man, it's fun talking about quarterbacks joining new teams, the possibilities of quarterbacks joining new teams. It's going to be a very fun month of March in the free agency pool. So coming up next, we're gonna share our screen here. So watch it on YouTube. We're going to say all the names as well of the players we're going to be looking at. So you could obviously just listen, but it's easier to watch to see the screen. I'm now sharing it. Matt, looking good? Yes.
Oh yeah, she's crispy.
Very crispy. All right. So what we're going to be doing is looking at FFPC Draft Room ADP. Again, they have a $35 Superflex Best Ball tournament and a $125 just standard Best Ball tournament. We're going to be looking at best picks. This is full PPR, tight end premium. So 1.5 PPR for tight ends, full PPR for other positions, and you know how quarterbacks are scored. Yeah, we're going to be looking at our favorite picks of each round and our worst picks of each round. Me and Matt and I, did not confer here as we like to do.
There may be some overlap.
There might be some overlap, but we don't confer just because it's more fun that way to see if there is some overlap. But with that being said, the first round currently, according to ADP in FFPC drafts, is Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson / CD. CD kind of gets mixed in there. So Matt, I'll let you kick it off first. Who is your? Well, do you want to start with worst or best?
Let's go with the worst pick first. Yeah.
Right.
Let's end on positive notes in these rounds.
All right. Who do you think your worst pick is here?
I mean, I felt like he was the worst pick in the first round last year, and I'm going to double down and say he's the worst pick in the first round this year. It's Jonathan Taylor for me. He was vaunted as the 1-1 overall last season after putting up one of the lowest scoring RB1 seasons in fantasy football history in 2020 when he was the RB1 when McCaffrey got injured. The Colts are in cap and roster purgatory, likely to bring in either one of the remaining veteran quarterbacks, which are lower level ones a la Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield, or a rookie QB in the NFL draft. And either way, that's not going to be good for the scoring offense. Not that it was good last year, but you'll probably see similar numbers, if not some major regression. Major regression coming in offensive line, coaching changes, quarterback changes, all of that. It's got me fading JT in every round. The perspective is not only will he need to repeat his 2020 season, he'll need to surpass it and improve on it to be able to be drafted ahead of any of these other running backs below him in the second round. Breece Hall's, Travis Etienne's, Kenneth Walker's. And all of those guys, even from a points per game perspective, just whittle it down to points per game, had better seasons than JT did when he was the RB1 overall.
Yeah, I have no qualms with your choice. Starting off hot because my choice was also Jonathan Taylor. A close second for me was Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, we know he's great. 1,440 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns last year. Just continues to be an A1 superstar at the position. But right now, the Las Vegas Raiders are in flux at the QB position, and that is concerning to me. I'm not sure they'll be able to get a high-end quarterback, and Jarrett Stidham is certainly not the answer, at
Currently the
least in my
starter.
opinion. Yeah. So, yeah, Devontae Adams, I think, is a little bit too risky for me at the moment, but my main pick would have been Jonathan Taylor. So I agree with you there, Matt. We are in agreement to start. Look at
I
that.
think
Who would
I
have
think a
guessed
little
it?
honorable mention on worst pick too for me is Bijan Robinson. And I mean, this is literally his peak value in Dynasty is 112, and that's the assumption that he's insulated with value throughout his entire career. Like people aren't drafting him at 112 for the rookie production, and we've seen over and over and over again Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams. These rookies don't get lead roles if there's any sort of semblance of veteran presence on the roster. They will be whittled and slowed into their development. That's just how rookie running backs in the NFL work. So I don't love Bijan at 112 in best ball and redrafts, although you'll probably get a gigantic end of season bump with his production.
Yeah, see, I don't hate Bijan Robinson, especially in a tournament view, like you said. If end of
Yeah,
year, he's the guy that helps. I also like if you look at Brees Hall last year, he was a third, fourth round pick. He would have been worth honestly the 1.12 if he stayed
that's
healthy with the way that he was
100%
playing. So I
correct.
don't think
Yep.
Bijan Robinson can't live up to that, but I do think you're drafting him very close to his ceiling. You're expecting him to be a huge star by drafting him at the 112. I mean at that cost, he's not someone I'd probably target nonstop, but definitely dabble every now and then.
Yep. Agree.
Favorite pick of the first round. Look, when it comes to the first round, I've never been a guy like I'm targeting this player. I like to mix it up a bit in the first round. You get a lot of players who are talented and a lot of players who um, aren't going to bust. I don't think there's a lot of clear bust options here. But when it comes to the wide receiver position, I do think Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase stand above the rest. So those would be my picks. I think it's fairly simple. Like Justin Jefferson, 1,771 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. Jamar Chase dealt with injuries, 960 yards, 8 touchdowns. Started really getting that huge target share as well, separating himself from T. Higgins a bit.
Big
So I
time.
think Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, starting with one of those two studs, would probably be my ideal start for a best ball draft. Matt, who's your favorite pick of the bunch?
Yeah, I mean, for how I like to draft, if I get 1-1 in these tournament drafts, I'm definitely going to attack Justin Jefferson. But I kind of went a little bit more middle value. I still think that, especially in tight end premium, it's Travis Kelce, man. Like your net, you can try to fade him until he dies. Like it's never going to
Yep.
work. He's always going to be Travis Kelce. I think you can literally let him retire on your roster, so to speak. In my opinion, the greatest positional advantage in fantasy football. He shows no signs of major regression, finishes the tight end 1 overall, tight end 1 in points per game, which would
Yep.
have also been wide receiver 7 in points per game. And that's just PPR, not even tight end premium. He was the 10th overall non QB in points per game and the 12th highest scoring player overall. I have zero hesitation taking him at 1-6 or 1-7
Yeah, I
or
I
4th. I guess
yeah,
that
he's going fourth
the
now,
ADP
but
did update it a little bit on us, but yeah.
yeah, look, Travis Kelce, I was fading him a bit last year. Definitely the wrong choice. I probably won't make that mistake
It
again
seemed like
this year.
regression was coming, but yeah,
Yeah.
especially with them not
Patrick
having
Mahomes
any
is just
real
too good. Travis Kelce is just too good. Like sometimes these
wide
guys are
receiver
just
room isn't good.
yeah. When you're like but a generationally talented combo, sometimes you break through barriers other teams or other players couldn't break through. That's what Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are doing. So heading into round 2, we'll we are looking at picks 13 through 24 now. CeeDee Lamb was right on the precipice, so we're gonna include him here. CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Brees Hall, Josh Allen, Jalen Waddle, Patrick Mahomes, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Hurts are the next 12 here. So CeeDee Lamb through Jalen Hurts are the next 12 players. Round 2, ADP. It's a fun little grouping here. QBs have shot up the board, as you can see, with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts all being mixed in round 2. Questionable RBs or young RBs, Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, Brees Hall, and then young stud wide receivers like CD, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, and Garrett Wilson. I'll start it off with my worst pick. My worst pick here, Matt, has to be QB. I understand
We're going to
that,
agree a lot.
yeah, I understand that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts really broke through last season in separating themselves way more than the top end QBs typically do. Like you see Josh Allen here over 4,700 total yards, 32 touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes threw for over 5,000. Jalen Hurts was a cheat code, 747 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. Like these guys were absolute studs, and they really separated themselves from the pack last year. But that's not something I'd expect to just continue. Like we saw a trend of QBs being devalued. Like last year, these guys were going late 4th, 5th round. Like sometimes we didn't see the first QB off the board until the 5th. And that's why I was like, it's time to start drafting high-end quarterbacks again. Like getting Patrick Mahomes in the 5th or Josh Allen in the 5th. Like I got Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round in underdog drafts a bunch of times in my home league. I got him at the end of the 5th round. Like my best teams had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback because once it got to the 5th round, it was like, yeah, I'm going to draft these guys. But now they're being heavily inflated again, up to 2nd round ADPs, and that's where it comes in. Like, do you get that huge of a boost having one of these guys compared to other quarterbacks? But we see year after year quarterbacks who aren't being drafted as highly jumping up the ranks and saving the day for your fantasy team where you didn't have to spend high up on a quarterback. Like, for instance, the FFPC Superflex tournament last year, that the player who won the Superflex tournament, which values quarterbacks, didn't have one of the high-end quarterbacks. His best 2 quarterbacks were Justin Fields and Daniel Jones. Like, you don't need a high-end quarterback. Yes, it could help your team if you draft well, and last year they were good values. I think all the value has just been pulled just directly from the QB position for the high-end quarterbacks here in people drafting these players in the 2nd round. 3 of them, 3 quarterbacks in the 2nd round. I feel like we're back in 2009.
Facts. And I mean, you're right. I could reiterate all of the exact same points. And for me, it was just Josh Allen because he had the highest ADP of those 3. And I just wrote, like, the first quarterback off the board is always a bad pick, in my opinion. It doesn't matter who that quarterback is or if he ends up finishing QB1 overall. But because of what you just said, the scoring variance between QB1 and QB6 was quite large this season, but that was also a major outlier in what we usually see from points per game from the quarterback position. Usually 1 through 6 are quite close, and then 6 to 12, you kind of get a bit of a more separation where that really matters. But as you said as well, if you can get 12 or 13, which would have been a Daniel Jones and Justin Fields, and have so many top-end studs lined in the roster before that, I think that's much more of an advantage than going QB early here.
Yeah. I'm just going to give a honorable mention to Amon-Ra and Derrick Henry, 2 guys I think are going a little bit high for my taste at the moment as well. For my favorite pick, I'm going Garrett Wilson, man. Yes, I'm a Jets fan. I may sound like a homer, but look at what Garrett Wilson did in 2022 as a rookie with very questionable quarterback play, over 1,000 yards, the 4 touchdowns. He looked like a star when he was on the field. And if they get Aaron Rodgers, man, he's just going to be a steal and a half. This reminds me of Justin Jefferson's 2nd year in the league. He was going late 2nd round in fantasy drafts, and Jason and I were like, that's silly. Like, Justin Jefferson is a star. Like, he proved that. Why is he going? He should be going at the turn. And me and Jason and I actually had a ton of Justin Jefferson exposure his sophomore season because we weren't afraid to take him at pick 14, 15, even though his ADP said 21, 22, like Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is that next guy. Like, I think he could be a star, especially if the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, and he has top 5 wide receiver ability, and getting him at the turn there. Like, if you could start a draft with Jamar Chase and then Garrett Wilson rounds 1 and 2, I'd be ecstatic about that.
Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson is exactly that. I think as soon as that trade were to go through, you're going to see him jump AJ Brown and Amon-Ra, probably be placed right behind CeeDee Lamb in ADP.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Who's your favorite pick in the 2nd round, Matt?
So we're going to have our first disagreement. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's Amon-Ra for me, man. I think Amon-Ra is one of the, I love him in comparison to, like, especially when you're looking like Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Breece Hall, Josh Allen, like we were talking about, Jalen Waddle, and Garrett Wilson specifically, a bit of that kind of tier break where I do value them very similarly. But man, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he's proven everything. Finished as the wide receiver 10 in points per game during his second season. He owns the record in the NFL for consecutive games with 8 or more targets, has earned over 20% of his team's targets in back-to-back seasons, despite even barely playing until the second half of the first year, and he still has over 20% target share overall of that team's passing attempts, which is absolutely incredible. I think he's honestly yet to meet his ceiling of production. He's legitimately like Cooper Kupp career trajectory, in my opinion. Locked and loaded as a set it and forget it wide receiver 1 in points per game. Wide receiver 10, I think probably increases a little bit to that top 8 position. He's a wide receiver 1, like top 12 any given week overall. Obviously as wide receiver 1 overall any given week in his career range of outcomes, and no one's coming for those targets. Like people that are bumping up Jameson Williams really high, or feeling like he can come and get a 24% target share, which would obviously diminish Amon-Ra St. Brown's opportunities. That's not happening. Jameson doesn't play in the slot. Jared Goff's still the quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown has some of the best hands in the NFL. He's going to get 100+ targets. It doesn't matter if Jameson Williams is healthy for 17 games.
I mean, I hear you. My issue is just taking him that high, around like
it's his ceiling. It's kind of like his
It
ceiling.
is his ceiling.
Well, he would be wide receiver. I think that puts him at wide receiver 8. That's essentially where I have him kind of hitting his floor of points per game this season. Like I do expect a continued increase of production, and going from, ending the season as the wide receiver 6 overall on the last 8 weeks as a rookie, and then wide receiver 10 overall in points per game as a sophomore. I feel like we've yet to see the best.
Okay, interesting. I'm just a little bit more cautious about Jared Goff being the quarterback, other weapons on the team and such, needing so many targets, but we'll see. I mean, I definitely don't think he's I don't think he's a bust option. He has a high floor. I just don't know if he has as high of a ceiling as some other guys in that area. But
that's fair.
Heading into round 3, we have, starting with Nick Chubb here. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Smith, Travis Etienne, T. Higgins, TJ Hawkinson, DK Metcalf, Ramondre Stevenson, Chris Olave, Joe Burrow, Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts. This is a very, very, very interesting group of tight ends here. Remember, it's tight end premium. That's why we have guys like TJ Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts mixed in here, who wouldn't necessarily be here if it was, or who would definitely wouldn't be here if it was a regular PPR league or half PPR league.
Definitely not.
So, but with that being said, Matt, we have a fun, again, all the positions are running back, wide receiver, tight end, and Joe Burrow mixed in there at QB. A lot of options here. Let's start with you again here. Who is your worst pick of round 3?
My worst pick of round 3, I think, is pretty obvious, and I just took the Brodo fantasy chalk. Like, just stop drafting Najee Harris.
Najee.
At all. Like, don't bother doing it. Certainly don't do it when he's valued within 6 picks of guys like Travis Etienne and Tony Pollard after him, and DeAndre Swift. Don't do it. Don't do it. I've got no interest in Najee Harris, man. And yes, he had a better turnaround in his sophomore season. Certainly hit a sophomore slump, but that should have been all anticipated, because for him to not have a sophomore slump, you were expecting 400+ touches in a Kenny Pickett led offense. Like, yes. Let's get out with that. That's not going to happen in his 3rd year either. And yes, there were some injuries concerns. Reportedly healthy, the foot and Liz Frank or whatever are doing better as far as the beats are concerned. That doesn't matter. He was an inefficient plotter when he was completely healthy and needed a number 1 ranked opportunity share to put up RB9 points per game. Like, I'm just not interested.
Agreed.
At all in any round ever.
My pick was Najee Harris here as well as someone to avoid. So
yeah, it better have been.
Early in the offseason, we're agreeing here. But I also had to give a shout out to Kyle Pitts, who hasn't been in his first 2 seasons in the league. He's just been a dream made up in people's minds
too high. Yeah.
Of who he can be. And it's happening again. Atlanta does not have their QB situation figured out. If they get Lamar Jackson, for instance, this dude's going to shoot up to the 2nd round easily. Like, at this point, year 3, I'm okay missing out on Kyle Pitts, and I'm not going to be drafting him.
I think I'm completely okay with because the key word is missing. It's all been presumption, and he certainly has the potential to meet this ceiling and above. So you have to be okay with missing a potentially generational season, but I am okay with that considering the cost. Like, it's all
Yeah.
about cost acquisition in these, best and worst picked ADP reviews. But Kyle Pitts being, right still in the top of the third, like, it's just still a little too pricey. Especially, like, I like guys like Pat Freiermuth. I like guys like George Kittle, especially in these tight end premium best ball where I don't have to worry about setting the lineup for their peak production. I mean,
Yeah,
I
for
feel
someone
like
like
I would
George
much
Kittle,
rather,
that's golden.
would much rather fade the Pitts here and then just go with that tight end in the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I got two guys. I'm also not super fond of this RB tandem up here with Chubb and Jacobs at the turn, but
Me either.
I still
I would rather ETN.
I'd rather them over like Harris and Pitts. With that being said, Matt, I got two people here that I couldn't really choose between as my favorite pick. Who are you going with?
It's not going to take me long to explain it. We've already touched on him quite a bit
Did
in
I
this
click it
episode.
correctly?
It's Chris Olave. Yeah, like,
Okay.
I mean, it's for sure Chris Olave. I'll reiterate and say again, him and Garrett Wilson both had 1,000-yard rookie seasons. Olave actually played fewer games than Garrett Wilson as well, so a higher points per game total than Wilson. Number 1 in points per game for wide receivers this season, or rookie wide receivers this season, rather. It's going to repeat. It's going to get better with Derek Carr than it was with Andy Dalton. Nobody's coming for those targets. Chris Olave is a top 10 wide receiver.
Short
he should
and
be
sweet.
valued much closer to Garrett Wilson than he is to Najee Harris.
Fair enough. The two people I could not choose between, firstly, was Chris Olave. So we agree again, Matt. Derek Carr coming in answers the QB position enough as well that I think it makes Chris Olave a value here, because like we just saw him ball out with Devontae Adams. We've seen him ball out in the past with guys like Amari Cooper. He even made Mac Hollins viable wide receiver at times this past season. Like Derek Carr
That's a fact.
sustaining a high-end wide receiver is not a question that we have to ask. Like, it can absolutely be done. So I do agree with you there. Like, I'd rather have Chris Olave than Chubb, if I'm being honest.
100%.
You're picking him
Yes.
9 picks later.
100%.
The other guy was Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots. I think
Completely
his ADP
agree. He was my honorable mention.
Nice. I think his ADP here, look, 986 rushing yards last year, 5 rushing touchdowns, 393 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. I think his ADP is in this area because of the old, it's the New England Patriots running back room, like that people are just so afraid of, And let's not forget that it used to be go get the New England Patriots running backs with Stephen Ridley and LeGarrette Blount and company. Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris is a free agent. Like, I don't expect him to bring him back. Even if they do bring in another running back, like Ramondre Stevenson balled out when given the shot last season as the lead back, and he was catching the ball a ton. This is a PPR league. The Patriots offense can't possibly be worse next year than it was this year. Like, in my opinion, either. They'll likely bring in some other wide receiver weapons. Like, if this offense gets better, that's better for Ramondre Stevenson. And Ramondre Stevenson was a stud last year as the lead back, and I don't think that's going to change this season. So I think Ramondre Stevenson, smack dab in the middle of the 3rd round, is quite a nice pick along there with Chris Olave. So these two I'd be fighting about in my head, depending on my roster construction thus far. Like, if I started with Jamar Chase and Garrett Wilson, like I was mentioning before, getting Ramondre Stevenson here as my first running back would certainly be something I'd be happy about. With that being said, finished with round 3, on to round 4, starting with Debo. Yes, after Kyle Pitts. All right. Round 4, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Justin Fields, Dallas Goedert, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Dalvin Cook, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Mixon to round it out. Matt, this was a round that I looked at and I was like, this is very, very interesting group of people.
Absolutely.
Like, I could see several of these guys being great. One of them I'll talk about as my favorite pick, but I could also see several of these guys not living up to their draft capital. I had a hard time choosing one guy that I was fading here. If I had to choose one of the bunch, just like I'm probably not going to draft him at that ADP, it's probably Amari Cooper, who, even though he had a very good 2022 season, 1,109 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, he was trash when Deshaun Watson became the quarterback. Deshaun Watson, for the most part, he still had a couple good games. But
Everybody was.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson just completely overhauled that what was a good offense under Jacoby Brissett into a bad offense under Deshaun Watson,
Funny.
which is wild, a wild thing to say. But yes, they could. It's still early in the offseason, and maybe I'll change my tune here. I was also considering Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon, two older guys who are in more questionable positions. I was also considering DeAndre Swift, who just keeps getting his value inflated year after year, kind of like a Kyle Pitts, and not really living up to it per se. So I had a lot of options here. I kind of settled on Amari Cooper as a guy I just wouldn't be drafting at this value. I just don't really see it at this time. So, but there were a lot of names up for debate. So, Matt, who is your worst pick of round 4?
I think you might like this one, but honestly, for me, and a lot of the theme with my selections for these best and worst picks is it simply comes down to cost of acquisition.
Uh-huh.
It's Justin Fields. It's. I think Justin Fields is a bad pick here when you look at who are the two quarterbacks going 5 and 6 picks after him: Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. I personally, in every draft, whether it be dynasty or best ball, I think that you should be in these rounds specifically. I think you should be more so focused on solidified production and not necessarily chasing the ceiling at the quarterback position. Justin Fields has an incredible rushing ceiling, but that Bears offense has so many holes to fill that I don't think the passing production is necessarily going to bridge the gap where he's a bona fide top 10, top 8 quarterback. And Lamar Jackson is when healthy. Justin Herbert absolutely is when healthy. And there's other disrespected older quarterbacks down that line that are absolutely locked and loaded. You don't have to worry about the matchup, the defense, who they're playing, nothing. They are going to finish in the top 12 of points per game every single week. Justin Fields isn't that. His floor is terrifying. When he's not getting his rushing going and the passing isn't attached, he's a low-end QB2, and he's shown that. And yes, that can improve, but I'm not chasing that ceiling here when I can literally just have Lamar.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you just said. The reason why I didn't choose a quarterback here is because I already chose one earlier. And in terms of value, like QB 5, 6, I don't hate the idea of taking Fields and Jackson
decent,
there.
yes.
But the fact that QB 5 and 6 are going at picks, what are their ADPs? 42 and 47 are still hard for me to swallow here. So it seems like
It's just the talent that's beneath them too. It's so equal that why would I? Like,
so it looks like I may have to be a fader of high-end quarterbacks once more this season with the way they're being drafted. For my best pick, there was one guy that stood out to me. I always loved George Kittle in best ball, especially in FFPC, because of his high ceiling as a tight end. But, that wasn't my pick for best pick here. For me, it's Tony Pollard, because Tony Pollard, look, last season, 988 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, 371 yards, receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. He was an absolute stud last season. Zeke is already either taking a pay cut or is getting cut. The Cowboys finally figured out, damn, we have a stud running back in a high-powered Cowboys offense. So why is he going in the 4th round? I'm very confused by it. Zeke was going at this spot last season with Tony Pollard still around.
Yeah,
Zeke
facts.
is at this point, Zeke is whatever. He's not going to be someone you're drafting the first 8, 9 rounds anymore. Tony Pollard's the guy. He was great as the guy. So why is he being drafted in round 4? I'm very confused by it. If Tony Pollard, if you changed that 38.6 to a 24.6 and I opened it up as if it was brand new information, I would have been like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah. Right around the back or the high end RB2 range, like RB12, 13. Yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's where he should be going.
Yeah, in the
not
second
RB20.
or 3rd round turn. Yeah, not at the 3rd, 4th round turn. So Tony Pollard was my favorite pick here. I think he's being undervalued here.
Completely agree. That was my favorite pick in this round as well. And
Matt,
yeah,
we're agreeing too much.
The stat that I wanted to pull for this, and obviously denominators matter, so he started a lot less games than some of the other active running backs. But Tony Pollard has the highest RB1 percentage of finishes of any starting active running back in the NFL. So
Beast.
every game he starts, he finishes top 12.
Beast.
It's just
Absolute beast.
insane how good that guy is on a per touch basis. And we always assumed that the efficiency was kind of going to dwindle that, but it's fine because the most efficient running back in the NFL on a lower level of touches, if he becomes the 12th most efficient running back on a higher level of touches, that's fine. But he just maintained the efficiency, which is almost unheard of. Like, Tony Pollard really is the real deal.
Yeah. Now we're heading into the final round of this podcast, round 5. If you missed it earlier, we're going to be doing round 6 through 10 for patrons on patreon.com/protofantasy. You can sign up for as little as $3 a month to get access to that. So go ahead and sign up to hear the rest of this round 6 through 10. But we are finishing off round 5 here, starting off with the wide receiver I successfully faded last season. Here we go. Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, Drake London, Damian Pierce, Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Keenan Allen, J.K. Dobbins. There is a whole lot of yuck, in my opinion, this round.
I hate this round.
Yeah, I was like, this is gross to several of these guys. I'll let you
So
kick it off.
I've got some honorable mentions. Yeah.
I kicked it off last time. So
I'll start with
your
my kind of honorable mention worst pick. Just so I, don't take too much time, but it's Damian Pierce. Likely won't even be the best running back on his own roster by the time the 2023 season starts. So I'm not interested in Damian at all this season. But the worst pick of this round for me is undeniably, and we probably are going to agree again, it's Javonte Williams.
Yep, I was already hovering over his name.
Javonte Williams, his knee is dust, man. Torn MCL, torn ACL, additional ligament damage, torn meniscus. So imagine if J.K. Dobbins' preseason knee injury happened in the middle of the season. Now take that logic and apply it to Javonte Williams' 2023 season. There's not a world that we live in where Javonte is going to be able to suit up for the entire season, let alone play at a high level. And on that note, how high of a level are you really expecting from Javonte Williams? It's always been an assumption. He has never been a lead back at any point in his collegiate or NFL career. He has just 5 top 12 finishes and 26 NFL games played. Like, it's always been assumption with Javonte. And yeah, he had a phenomenal athletic prospect profile, looked great, got the draft capital. We all assumed, but it was assumptions. And then Melvin Gordon was still getting touches. And then Javonte got hurt. And it's a bad knee injury. Matthew Berry was on his podcast talking about it because he was at the combine and talking to GMs and stuff. And he was saying that the way that people are talking about Javonte Williams makes him genuinely uneasy.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, like there's a lot of very clear lying going on, and within the organization, they do not seem incredibly confident.
Yeah, like I could see Javonte Williams being a pick outside the top 100 by the time September comes around very easily.
Yes, I think probably should be. 100%, man.
So yeah, I agree with you. I have Javonte Williams, but I also absolutely cannot stand Damian Pierce here. I think that's a joke. If you're drafting Damian Pierce, where he was going last season, like where last season he had a couple good games, but he didn't really live up to ADP. He was whatever, like it was Damian Pierce. It was exactly what everyone like. He wasn't a star by any means. He's just being drafted to be Damian Pierce again, and you could find Damian Pierce on the waiver wire 100 times out of 100. I know this is best ball, but still. Like, I just have no interest in Damian Pierce at all at this cost. I think Trevor Lawrence.
You can find like 6 or 7 Damian Pierces just in rookie running backs this year.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence being drafted in the 5th round is blasphemous to me. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I know he had a great second year and he's on the rise, but I'm not taking Trevor Lawrence in round 5. J.K. Dobbins, like, he ran better at the end of the season, but Lamar Jackson might be gone. He still was running, looking like he was an old man at times. Like, what are we doing here with these guys? I have no interest in any of those players.
Yeah, and on that note, Javonte just being drafted ahead of J.K. Dobbins in the first place is like, what are we doing? Did you not watch him play last year? Like,
yeah. So Matt, now to end it off on a high, who's your favorite pick of round 5?
Little honorable mention, Drake London. I mean, honestly, if Drake London recorded the 3rd highest target share of any rookie in NFL history, if they decide to pass the ball more than 24 times a game, he'll return high-end wide receiver 2, if not wide receiver 1 value. But my absolute favorite pick, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs in the 5th is Money, money, money. He should be valued closer to Bijan Robinson than he is to Javonte Williams. He possesses one of the best collegiate receiving profiles that we've ever seen from the running back position. Legit burner speed, topping out at 4.36 at the combine. Weighed slightly in under 200 at 199, but his playing weight's probably a little over 200, which would put his BMI above that sweet 30.0 threshold. He's also projected to go at the back end of the first round, which first round draft capital is going to skyrocket this kid's profile in my model anyway. But back into the first round, who's sitting there? The Chiefs, the Bengals, like Gibbs as a supercharged Jerick McKinnon, which is a very favorable comp and very favorable landing spot. Like that's right around where he's going. Pick 29 is where his ADP has risen to, or EDP, I guess they call it when it's actual NFL draft. But Jahmyr Gibbs is going to put up like CMC rookie numbers. And he's going to do it on a great offense that needs a running back at the back end of the first that is already highly competitive with a good quarterback. He should be valued ahead of so many of these other running backs, especially if people think that Bijan could hit his ceiling in year one. Yes, Gibbs is a bit of a lower level. It's like he's not that generational level, but he's undeniably the RB2 in this draft class. Undeniably. No one's even close. You shouldn't be drafting Najee Harris ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. That's fucking insane.
Someone is very high on Jahmyr Gibbs. I like it.
Big time.
Look, I hated this round. There was no one that stood out to me like I must draft this guy. I went with an interesting approach here because look, we had two guys that were being drafted early third round on the same team last season, and that's Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who are now being drafted late fifth, early sixth round in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Such a good pick here.
Yeah, Mike Williams, who I'm cheating a little bit. I mean, he's inside the top 16 ADP, but he wasn't part of the 12 that I mentioned. But Mike Williams, if you were watching, you'd see his name. Both of these guys have dropped 2 rounds in ADP since last season, and their situation is largely the same. They just got injured last year.
Better with a new OC.
Yeah, and I know they both have dealt with several injuries in the past, and they are injury risks. But when you're in a best ball tournament, you have to take some injury risks every now and then. If they return for the playoffs, for the best ball playoffs, that they're a big boost, and maybe they just stay healthy in general. So Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I know they have question marks. I know Keenan Allen's getting older, but they're still tied to Justin Herbert, who is an absolute star, who balled out last year despite throwing to Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter. Like if Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter could put in work last season, like we saw Keenan Allen and Mike Williams be very trustworthy for the most part when healthy and on the field last year. So at that price in best ball, especially, I think those two have some real appeal here. And with that being said, that is it for the first 5 rounds and our QB talk.
Now we get into the spicy rounds. Make sure you tune into Patreon.
Yep, and now we get into round 6 through 10 to discuss guys like Calvin Ridley, Cam Akers, Isaiah Pacheco, Jackson Smith, the Jigba.
Well, how is he that late?
You'll hear all about that on patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. Thank you guys all for listening, and we'll see you there. Later.